Hi, I'm your shitty DM here with another video essay. Someone said to me, make a video on whether or not gender roles and true heterosexuality can exist in a world where magic like alter self, tactile illusions like phantasmal force, and similar fantastical elements that can undeniably change one's gender or allow for sexual experimentation beyond what our real world is capable of exist. Sure, why not? Now, the questions here are: can true heterosexuality exist in a world where spells and effects listed above exist? And can gender roles exist in the same setting? I say yes to both. Starting with traditional gender roles, those already exist in any setting where there is a male who goes out to hunt, gather, or farm to provide food and shelter for the family, and a female who stays at home, raises children, and manages the household. The real question is what happens when the previously mentioned magical elements are introduced. According to the 5E spell list, Alter Self is a spell learnable by wizards, sorcerers, and artificers, as well as any bard that chooses to learn it through magical secrets. Oddly enough, it's not a domain spell for trickery domain clerics. That's probably because it's a second level spell. And since it's a second level spell, you need to be a spellcaster of 3rd level or higher at minimum. So if you're a spellcaster who knows this spell, you're probably moderately impressive, but you've only got an hour on it to, say, make yourself look like a lady. At max spell slots, 4 hours. The other spell in the request is Phantasmal Force. I'm not one to name names, but they said that you can use it to grow a Fuda cock and fuck until you come, or at least something along those lines. Phantasmal Force is a spell that, in short, makes someone believe that an illusion is real while the illusion deals imagined damage. So in this instance, let's say that happens, someone uses Phantasmal Force against a subject that's hopefully consenting to it, and the effect is altered in a way that they don't take damage, similar to how some people use it to regain health. In that case, it doesn't matter what it is because they'll still feel pleasure from it. It could be a man, woman, chicken, sentient desk, and a mind flare. They'll all feel the same thing, like a sort of general pleasure. You could probably alter someone's sexuality through conditioning after using it enough, but that's definitely evil. Even if you're specifying the location of that pleasure, it's still possible for someone to orgasm against their will, so it's got as much chance of being harmful to someone's sexuality than beneficial or enlightening. If the spell is further altered so a woman believes she has a penis and is using it on her partner, that's essentially the same as using a strap-on. If you're doing that for the first time, you're probably already exercising latent dominant tendencies. So those are the provided examples. There's also true polymorph, where if you keep someone transformed and maintain your concentration for the full hour, you can force them to remain in their new form, whatever it is. The problem with that is that it's a 9th level spell, so imagine the plausibility and effort into going to see Mordenkainen to have him turn you into a woman, and that kind of goes out the window. There's also the fabled Belt of Reverse Gender, which I would reason to be a magic item that has the Alter Self spell, with the effect of turning whoever wears it into the opposite gender. It's really just a prank item in the original context, but if someone has the money to have one made, then they could. Then again, that's probably about 500 gold. It'd be an alright character motivation, I guess, getting together the money for your Belt of Reverse Gender. Why not? So when this starts in a generic medieval fantasy setting, it'll be entirely localized among the wizard and sorcerer population, with the exception of wandering bards, and eventually eldritch knights. Alter Self's short duration really isn't plausible for long-term use, and it's really only good enough for a thrill. Phantasmal Force will have to go through a fair amount of alteration before it's viable for any sexual options. If time passes on and more people are capable of casting magic, the temporary nature of Alter Self and Phantasmal Forces Force sensations would probably become signature spells for magical prostitutes. I don't feel like it would have much impact. It might enable overall a few people to become bi or homosexuals if they enjoy it, but true heterosexuals would probably still just use Phantasmal Force for enacting heterosexual fantasies, while Alter Self is probably used for large insertions. If you're a woman who only likes men and a man who only likes women, you don't really have a reason to do so otherwise. Turning Alter Self into a potion or just getting it cast on you by a mage would still cost you a lot. Generally, any people who would identify as transgender would do better cross-dressing if they wanted to save the money, or be able to last for longer than an hour at a time. Or, I'm sorry, I'm not really up to date on how transgender people cope. Sorry. Would have as little or less impact on gender roles. not as much as the capacity in fantasy for races and species to have different or unusual reproduction methods. In general, gender roles boil down to who stays to raise the children and watch the house, and who goes out to provide for the family. If it were some hermaphroditic race in society, then it would totally fall to who feels like what. Though because everyone has the choice to either go out or stay home, it might have a greater effect of those choosing to take the stay home role, unless there's good conditioning to be the one working and providing as much as it is to stay home. It'd probably work well in some kind of Amazonian society. A lot of it depends on the setting, but since it's an answer that generally means it varies from place to place and I don't feel like elaborating, here's some possibilities. 1. Some kind of bird race, where the females are smaller and more adept at hunting for food, whereas the males are larger and more threatening. The female can lay the fertilized eggs, then go out to provide food for the family, while the males stay at home to raise and defend the children. 2. A humanoid race, where all children are born as hermaphrodites or without sexual dimorphism, but it develops as they age and they'll eventually be able to choose which gender they want to be, at which point the dimorphic qualities start developing. I pretty much got this from Knights of Sidonia. 3. Something like the Drow from Forgotten Realms. In addition, since it's fantasy, you can have some kind of pretext where God or divine power decides who's going to be going out or staying at home. Heck, maybe every so often they change everyone's gender for funsies or egalitarianism. It's a bit late for this disclaimer, but I'm not much of an expert of gender studies. Similar to real life, the capacity for change in gender roles really depends on the way society develops around the people. Earlier, for the sake of brevity, I didn't include single parents who have to perform the roles of provider and caretaker, but they've been around forever, so even historically, gender roles weren't entirely concrete. Really though, you can do whatever you want for your setting. Thanks for watching, and please submit any ideas or concepts you'd like me to cover in the future. If you like my videos, please do as you want, and show you do. I'll gladly do more in the future. And for now, I'm your shitty DM, and